everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm reviewing the Family Fortune scenario for Sims 4. To begin this scenario, you will select Play Scenario from the main menu, and then you will scroll down until you find it, which is right here. This is a base game scenario. It does not require any other packs. That includes Life and Death. This scenario includes the inheritance mechanic that is part of the scenario itself and does not change if you do own Life and Death. However, if you do own Life and Death, then you can use the funeral and will system to enhance this scenario separately, and it doesn't change how the scenario plays. When you choose the scenario, you will be loaded into the last save game where you were playing, so that is where you'll place the family. You do not get to choose the family or create your own Sims. You'll be playing as the Landry family, which includes Nisa, the grandmother, who is an elder, Ava, the eldest sibling, who is an adult, Eddie, the middle sibling, who is also an adult, and Lila, the youngest sibling, who is a young adult. At the start of the scenario, the family has 80,000 simoleons. You can live in any house in any world you choose, but it is recommended that when you are choosing the house that you live in, that you use the free real estate cheat, which you just type Control-Shift-C to bring up the cheat box and then type all one word free real estate space on. And you do that from the menu screen, and that will make it possible to live in any household in the world. It's recommended that you do this because you will need that 80,000 simoleons for the optional tasks during the scenario, and it'll also keep the majority of the inheritance intact. This scenario is set over 3 phases. Each phase has both optional and mandatory tasks you must complete. The mandatory tasks are needed to move on to the next phase, and the optional tasks you complete will determine which version of those phases you are given. There are at least 2 versions of phase 2 and 3, and there's the possibility of at least 4 endings for this scenario. So unfortunately, during this scenario, I encountered several bugs, which ultimately made it impossible for me to complete this scenario. The first of these bugs is well documented online because it occurs in the first phase of the scenario, the Heal the Negative Sentiments bug. This was supposed to be resolved in patch 1.109.207 on October 1st, 2024. And although I created this save after that patch and after the launch of Life and Death, I still encountered this bug. For this bug, the mandatory task to heal the negative family sentiments does not resolve. Even when it appears that there are no longer negative sentiments, although there are cheats that you can find online that supposedly remove sentiments, these don't seem to be functional any longer. I did try to use them multiple times, both to remove and add sentiments, and they never did anything. So I don't know if that has changed over the years, but that didn't work. The only way I was able to complete this task was to download MC Command Center and use that to remove what are called the relationship bits. I don't know if this is the name that Debtorpool gave those sentiments, or if that's something that is in the files from the Sim team, but basically they're the connections of all the little relationships between Sims, including the sentiments. The only way to remove the negative sentiments I found was to actually delete those from the relationship bits. I don't know if what I was deleting was the full sentiment from their relationships or if it was a fragment of sentiments left behind after they resolved. I don't have that information. But what I've determined after doing this is that I think I've seen this exact same bug in regular gameplay. But in regular gameplay, it doesn't seem to matter. Sentiments do seem to disappear suddenly, but still be causing problems between Sims. And that's because maybe it's a visual bug that it looks like the sentiment has resolved, but it hasn't. Or maybe the sentiments were designed this way where they're supposed to mostly resolve but still have lingering effects after they disappear. In regular gameplay, this isn't really an issue because it seems to give depth to the sentiment system. But in a scenario like this where you are trying to complete a task on a time limit, that isn't very helpful. So I don't know if sentiments are actually bugged or if they were designed that way. If it is a bug, then I don't think the scenario is bugged. I think the sentiments are bugged. But if that's how the sentiments are supposed to work, then I don't think that this scenario was designed very well, because removing the visual cue from the players to be able to know when a sentiment has resolved is not very helpful. Also, even though I was able to complete this task using MC Command Center, I think that that's not really a great option in the long run. There are people who don't like to use mods, but also there are people who play on console, and console players can't use mods at all. So that would permanently end this scenario for them. The second bug I encountered was in phase 3 of the scenario. This is also how I learned there are multiple versions of phase 2 and 3, because in searching for how to resolve this, I discovered the online guides to this scenario, and they all had different phase 2 and 3 than what I had. So based on what the guide tells you to do in phase 1. And so again, that would lead you to a different ending. So this bug is the bring the family home bug, where bringing the family home is a very simple task. All you have to do is send your Sims off the lot and then click the little home button on their icon in the UI. That would be the way you bring the family home. This resolved for 2 of my Sims, but you need to resolve it for all 4, and I couldn't get the last 2 to resolve. I tried it multiple times in many ways. I tried it when Sims were home, when Sims were not home. I tried it with every family member over and over again, and it just would not resolve. I even tried things like removing the dog patches from the house to send away, and that didn't help either. So I will admit that it's possible that I caused this bug by adding the dog patches to the household, which increased the family size to 5. However, later on, when I tried to add the Sim JD to the household by asking her to move in, I got a pop-up saying that adding her to the household could cause problems for the scenario, and gave me the option to back out. It did not give me a pop-up like this when I added the dog. It also did not give me a pop-up like this when I had 2 science babies. And so even if it was my fault for playing the game in the way that it's normally intended to be played, which is, having pets and babies and Sims added to your household, it should warn you that doing that is going to cause a problem. And it didn't. And so the third bug that I encountered was after Grandma died. And that is when it told me to add her to the household, which I did add her ghost to the household. And then it didn't recognize that I had done that, and it didn't resolve. And I do think that this might be a bug similar to the bring the family home bug, and that's why it didn't register. But of course, this is just my speculation. And the fourth bug that I encountered was actually less obvious, and I didn't realize it was a bug until I was looking at the online guides, is that there were supposed to be pop-ups throughout the scenario where Grandma is talking to the siblings similarly to a phone call, where the player can then choose a response. However, I only received these in the first phase of the game. I never received them again after that, so I think that's a bug as well. So normally I would give a star rating for a scenario. So here are my thoughts on each of the things that I'm looking for. So first, for versatility, this scenario is not versatile at all. You don't create your own Sims, and although you can give them whatever jobs you want and live in any world you want, you shouldn't add more Sims to the household because it adds problems. You can't just live your Sims' lives as you normally would in gameplay, and you seem to need to focus solely on this scenario until it completes. And so because of that, I wouldn't give this a star for versatility. It's not versatile. For challenge in the menu, it is marked as an intermediate challenge, and I do agree with that. I think it would be a bit overwhelming for new players to the game, but I think it's actually pretty easy for long-term veteran players. However, I do think there are some tasks that can make it more challenging. In my playthrough, I only needed to make 10,000 simoleons in Phase 2 because I didn't give away any in Phase 1, which was an optional task. But I've seen that if you did give away those simoleons in Phase 1, then you need to make back 75,000 simoleons, which is a lot more difficult. And as usual, the challenge is going to vary based on your own play style and what you think is easy, but I do think that intermediate is a correct option for how challenging this scenario is, and I would give it a star for that. For fun, I did have fun playing as the Landry family. However, because of the bugs, I became more and more frustrated as time went on, and I became so frustrated that it stopped being fun, and so I won't give it a star for fun. And for storytelling, I do think it is a good story starter, which is the point of all scenarios. The Landry family have a lot of conflict and growth that they can accomplish over time. So I would give it a star for storytelling. That part is pretty good. The replayability, now technically this should be an easy star, but because of all the problems with the bugs, I never want to replay this scenario. I don't want to replay it. I know there's multiple endings. I know there's multiple phases. I know I could follow a guide and maybe it'll go better, but I don't want to do it again. I don't want to start over. So I would say no. I wouldn't give it a star for this. And lastly, would I recommend this scenario? Well, the answer is no. And even though I would technically be giving this scenario 3 stars and 4 stars if I wanted to replay it, because of all the bugs, I actually can't give it any stars. So I give it 0 stars. I can't recommend playing this scenario to anyone. Bugs don't always affect everyone, so if you wanted to try it, that's up to you. If you already use MC Command Center, so you know you could get past that first bug, that's your choice. If you only want to play it because you would like to have the Landry family and deal with their conflict, that's up to you. But overall, I would say avoid this scenario. And so this scenario gets 0 stars and a do not recommend from me. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye!